Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I stand before this committee today to present this measure on behalf of myself and my joint author, your committee member, Senator Skinner, and together with Mr. Bonta of the other House, who has been part of this process for a number of years. Our obligation in this government is to ensure a fair process, that people are treated with dignity and respect, that victims are protected, and to continue to learn and to grow and to get better as circumstances change. In 2016, I embarked upon this after working on a number of measures that came out of the Ferguson report and the injustices in Ferguson. And it had to do with the bail system. And the bail system is a place where folks are charged with a crime, but there has not been a jury to determine whether they're guilty or innocent. And so we as a society try to measure and balance out the issue of treating people fairly, to make sure they show up to court, and to make sure that they don't commit further crimes if it's a domestic violence case or some particular area. And we have been dealing with this, and the federal government has been particularly successful with respect to this issue of bail. So embarking on this journey, our focus was really what we've learned about how unjust and unfair and ineffective the current bail system has been. Turns people's lives upside down, doesn't make the community safer, doesn't return people to court quicker. We have the data on that, which I'll talk about. Staggering. Cases where people are charged with a crime under the current bail system. Average bail in California is $50,000. If you're subject to a bail agent, you don't have your own $50,000, you got to put up $5,000, you don't get it back. Hugely unjust aspects of the system, unfair, and most importantly, not effective in providing justice and safety for our communities. The current bail system doesn't even result, as I say, from accused showing up at court. Recent research from the Public Policy Institute of California indicates and concluded that 6.6% of California defendants have multiple failures to appear, while the national average is 2.9, meaning that the bail system as existing doesn't even solve the problem it seeks to solve and has extraordinary consequences. So in looking for solutions and examining this on a national level, we worked, and I'll make it short on this part, with the Chief Justice, who put together a working group. 2017, we were moving forward with the measure, some of whom folks here on this committee were authors and joint authors and co-authors of. And we waited for the Supreme Court to act. And they basically, much to my surprise, suggested a system based of pretrial detention based upon a Serrano case of the United States Supreme Court that says, as long as you have a pretrial detention system, you don't have to have bail. So the proposal ultimately in SB 10, which this bill has nothing to do with, as I'll get to, was replacing the current system with the bail system, which we're supporting in this measure, with a completely different system of algorithms and a huge bureaucratic infrastructure which form the foundation of the opposition. So that measure was passed, and the arguments, just to make it clear as to why that were made with respect to the 7 companies that put up the $1 million to continue to support their bail industry business, the surety companies, the arguments weren't about the fact that the system is fair and just or effective. The arguments were about algorithms. The arguments that were made that these computer-based systems, I'm reading from the official voter guide, algorithms to make important criminal justice systems, computer models may be good for recommending songs and movies, but using these profiling methods to decide who gets released from jail and who gets a loan has been proven to hurt communities of color. Alice Huffman, President, California's Conference of the NAACP. Others, Craig talked about a bureaucracy. Nobody in trying to defeat reform of the bail system said that the bail system worked. Nobody said that it was just. They all just said algorithms, bureaucracy, more spending, taxes. Those were the arguments. And so the issue that informs the fire among us that are fighting for this issue is justice. Justice measured by public safety, but justice. And that is not what happened in the last election. So the bottom line is, this bill, with Senator Skinner, Assemblymember Bonta, does not rely on the approach of what we've taken before. It basically replaces, it doesn't replace, which was done at the suggestion of the working group by the Chief Justice, but it works on the existing system under our Constitution of bail and makes it better, fair, more just. So it's the first point is that this bill is completely, in large measure, I should say, not completely, in large measure, based upon the zero bail order by the Judicial Council, meaning that the judges scrub this for its legality and the like. And we are basically codifying that zero bail measure that was vetted by the courts. It does four things. First, it levels the pretrial playing field by setting bail at $0 for most misdemeanors and low-level felonies, exactly how the Judicial Council did it in their emergency order of April 2020. Second, it ensures that the accused do not assume any costs of court-imposed pretrial release conditions. Another issue completely unfair about the rich versus the poor. If you're poor, you're stuck in jail, you don't have any money. That's what we're trying to get to as one of the core justice elements here. Three, it requires bail companies to refund the premiums they receive from people who are arrested but aren't charged, who have their cases dismissed. It avoids this unbelievable predatory lending. Could you imagine if you went and had a loan against your house for $50,000, you had to pay a $5,000 fee? Oops, sorry, the loan never went through, but we get to keep the $5,000. I can give you 100 examples of just how patently unfair that is. And fourth, it ensures that the accused do not remain in custody simply because they can't afford to pay bail. Now, the Supreme Court has just heard in January a very important case called In re Humphreys. It deals with the ability of someone who's accused ability to pay bail. That case, I'm told, we spoke with the lawyer yesterday who argued the case. That decision may come down in the next 2 weeks. So rather than in the language of this measure make an assumption, we simply reference the Humphreys case as to what that should be, because ultimately if the Supreme Court speaks, we have to be guided by that. Second, from the April to the September 2020, when the zero bail order was in place, the bottom line is all of the data, PPIC, we've got some, I've seen some letters where people will tell one story or another story about somebody who got out of jail and caused another crime or whatever the case may be. But the reality is that property crimes have decreased during that time frame. Second, violent crimes have remained consistent. There's no fundamental difference in terms of this policy. The only difference is people are treated with justice and dignity. They can go home to their families. They can deal with the issues. They can hire a lawyer. They can keep their job. They don't have all the other consequences to their lives. They're not copying a plea to a case to get out of jail because their life is turned upside down. So it is just extraordinary that what we've learned is how effective the zero bail is. And in fact, 31 counties in the state of California still have the zero bail system, and it still works. You're going to hear examples, I'm sure, of somebody who got out of jail. There was some examples in one of the letter of this person here and that person there. Always is the case. But do we make public policy based upon an isolated example in one instance or another based upon the aberration? Or do we look at the large body of data in terms of what impact there is to society? And what we know is that in today's technology, this is so crazy and so simple. If you text somebody, people aren't not showing up for court because they're going to the Bahamas or going to some place that doesn't have extradition. They're busy. They got work. Their kid got sick. They lost their paperwork. Who knows? Should they be subject to such impositions of the judicial system and their liberty because of that? In Santa Clara County, a model which includes texting, 95% of pretrial appearances rates for defendants. And they saved $31.3 million in the first 6 months. Saves money, gets appearances. In Santa Clara County, between April 2013 and March 2016, defendants released on their own recognizance or supervised recognizance, meaning that they're getting these texts or whatever, avoid rearrest for a new offense. Listen to this, members. 99% of the time. There is no better data. Treating with people with dignity and fairness on the one hand, and achieving the systems that we're trying to achieve in government. 31 jurisdictions have kept the systems because it's working. So, I am here today to continue a fight that we have been involved with for many years. I will not give up this fight because it is about what is right and what is fair and what works. What works, what impacts people's lives in a very significant way. The difference between zero bail and bail is that poor people stay in jail under the bail system. Under the bail system, if you got the money, whether you're risk or not, you're out. Do we want a system based upon that? Do we want a system that determines in a government, certainly rich people can hire better lawyers, they can live in better communities, breathe better air, fly on private jets, no question. Fair, and everybody has a right to do that. But what they don't have a right to do is have their government make that decision for them. That the government makes the decision as to whether or not you are free or not. What government needs to do is to protect the public. What the government needs to do in every instance is to make sure always that in every instance possible, people's liberty is not detained for irrational and wrong reasons. And that's what's happening here. So what we've done is this measure. We have continued to fight the fight for justice, Senator Skinner and I, but we've done it in a way that does not look at the solutions that were outlined in the previous measure that we dealt with a couple of years ago. But we're working within the existing structure, and we're being informed by what the Supreme Court hopefully will do in the next 2 weeks. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Hertzberg, for your presentation. Now we're going to move to witnesses and support. I see you have a principal witness by the name of Esteban Nunez. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow.
Can I just say one other thing, sir? I apologize. I failed to mention this in the passion of my moment. But the additional coalitional partners on this members who've been working with us since day one are the Californians for Safety and Justice, the Western Center on Law and Poverty, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, and our new partners, our Insurance Commissioner, Ricardo Laura, and SE Justice, who's in support of this measure, and a whole coalition of folks that we're hoping to bring together with respect to this issue. So thank you, sir. I apologize, and thanks for allowing me to add that. But the first witness is Esteban Nunez from the Anti-Recidivism Coalition.